on RealAgriculture.com is brought to you by Becker Underwood's Nodulator XL, DuPont Verticin Fungicide, and Saskatchewan Pulse Growers.
Yeah, actually, Pea Leaf Weevil has actually been relatively stable in numbers the last 5 years or so. Stable in the area where we're finding it as well, with the exception of maybe an increase out in the Medicine Hat country. But it appears as though what we get for Pea Leaf Weevil problems is really dependent on spring weather. So if we get really warm spring conditions, then the Pea Leaf Weevil moves early to fields and we get more damage. If we get cool conditions like the previous 2 springs, then Pea Leaf Weevil comes late to the fields and we get much less damage. Oh, the mild winter, what it means is that actually the Pea Leaf Weevil came out of their wintering areas earlier. We've had some very warm weather. We had some almost plus 30 or plus 30 weather, and at that time they came out of their overwintering areas and started looking for pea fields. So they're out, they're active, and now when we get plus 18 days, which today is about that, then they start flying and looking for pea fields. If you're scouting, you actually start on the edge of your pea field, and what you're looking for is just looks like somebody took a hole punch and punched out the edge of the leaf, just a semicircular feeding pattern. As your peas emerge, basically the Pea Leaf Weevil will show up in your field on the first day that's warm enough for them to fly, after they emerge. So I've seen Pea Leaf Weevil that is at economic thresholds at 2-node stage. And we recommend that control decisions be made before the 6-node stage, so there's kind of your window between the 2 and 6 node. After the 6 node, the research is showing that really, if you haven't got economic levels prior to the 6 node stage, then likely any late comers are not going to cause major damage. Here's kind of the rub, is we can find them and we can count them when we know what the economic threshold is. The problem is that we don't have a good foliar application that prevents yield losses. We can stop them from further feeding, but it's not the feeding that causes the damage, it's the feeding of the larval stage, feeding on the nodules, that causes the economic damage. And when we spray, it seems like there's already been enough eggs laid and the larvae still show up and they still do the damage. So foliar spraying really is not that economic. We're not seeing the economic returns from foliar spraying. So what we're recommending is people that are dealing with Pea Leaf Weevil year after year, take a good hard look at seed treatment for control. And of course, it's too late. In May, it's too late because the seed's already in the ground. Yeah, that's why we're looking at ways to assess the populations. But really, what to me the determining factor is, if you're dealing with Pea Leaf Weevil year in year out, then I think you should be taking a really hard look at seed treatment. So there's registered seed treatments for their control, and that to me is showing the best economic returns. The adults actually are very cryptic, and they play dead, and they're also colored almost exactly the same color as our soil. So it's really hard to count the adults. So we actually count feeding damage, and the actual economic threshold is 1/3 of the clam leaves. So the top leaves on pea plants are always folded together, or they're still together before they open up. And when they're together like that, we call them the clam leaves. And if you get 1 out of 3 sets of clam leaves with any feeding on them at all, that's the threshold. So 1 out of 3 or more. If it's less than 1 out of 3, then it's below the threshold.